all the gin joints in all the towns in all the world. She walks into mine.
Frankly, my dear, I don't give a damn.
There's no crying in baseball.
You talking to me?
I'm gonna make him an offer he can't refuse.
Wait a minute. You ain't heard nothing yet.
Do I feel lucky? Well, do you, punk?
I love the smell of napalm in the morning.
You can't handle the truth!
You're gonna need a bigger boat.
Hello, everybody, and welcome again to the Old School Movie Club podcast. I am Shawn Patterson, joined by my friend Kevin Levine. Kevin, how are you doing?
I'm good, man. How are you? You didn't forget the mashed potatoes today, did you?
Oh, I forgot the mashed potatoes.
Film reference there?
Yeah, I got it now.
Okay.
I was not thinking about that at all, though. Like, when you said mashed potatoes, I was like, what?
Well, it's like we mentioned last week, with Close Encounters of the Third Kind, that there was a potato joke in there, or something about potatoes, and we didn't know what the joke was.
I get it.
Now we get it.
I get it. I get the joke now.
Yeah.
I didn't have to, like, when you said it to me, but I get it.
Yeah.
Alright, anyways, we are talking about Close Encounters of a Third Kind, or of the Third Kind, this week. Generally, a movie I really liked. I really, really enjoyed this movie after these, these last few weeks that I've been kind of like on the fence on.
I did get you to change your mind, though, on Rebel Without a Cause.
Rebel Without a Cause, I did change my mind. I warmed up to that one a lot more, but I don't need any more warming up for this one. I think this is by far the best Steven Spielberg movie I've probably seen.
Oh, I don't know about it being the best Spielberg film I've ever seen. So this is the second Spielberg film we've seen for this show now. We've seen Jaws, and now we've seen Close Encounters.
This is way better than Jaws.
Definitely my favorite. Close Encounters is my favorite of the two. But I wouldn't say that it's my favorite Spielberg movie of all time.
I really like this movie.
Because he did so much, though. I mean,
I'm looking at that list. I really like this movie. I really like this movie.
Yeah, it is a really good movie. I would say, though, that for me, my favorite Spielberg film is still between E.T. and Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Never seen either of those.
What?
Never seen either of those.
Oh my God, Shawn.
I told you I was a baby when it came to watching movies. That's why we're doing the podcast. Since you've seen those movies, we probably won't watch them, but maybe we'll do like a Shawn catches up on movies week or something, and I'll watch like a big old group of movies that I should have seen a long time ago. But
especially E.T., dude. E.T.'s an iconic.
I think I have
kids
actually.
Movie.
I have seen the Indiana Jones series, but it's been a long time. But I've never seen E.T. like all the way through. I've never sat through it. I've seen bits and pieces, but I actually it's all right. But yeah, this is I'm not seeing a lot of Spielberg films. This is my favorite Spielberg film that I've seen. Off the top of my head. This is like I said, I haven't seen that many Spielberg films. But what did you think about the movie? Obviously, it's not your favorite Spielberg film, but...
Well, no, it's not my favorite Spielberg film, but it's still a great film.
Oh yeah, it's amazing.
Yeah, I'm not completely sold on the acting in this one, but again, because it feels more of like a sci-fi action movie where you're more focused on the effects and the story more so than you are on the acting and the portrayal of the characters. Although Richard Dreyfuss does a great job of portraying his character, and Melinda Dillon did get an Academy Award nomination for this, which maybe I need to go back and see what the other performances were that year that got nominated, because I don't think she was that great.
I don't think any portrayal in this movie is worth that, and that's not really why I like this movie so much. I really, 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 really enjoyed the movie making of this movie, you know? So the special effects are amazing, like especially for the time.
My God, and to think about how just 2 years earlier he had done Jaws, and granted Jaws had a lot of practical effects, and there are a fair amount of practical effects still, but there's also some, I believe there's some computer generated effects here too. But these effects far better than Jaws.
Yeah,
my God,
blow Jaws out of the water as far as effects. Sound is amazing. And one of my favorite things about this movie is actually the different shots and cinematography that they use in it. It really like helps convey what is lacking in acting. They make up for in just pure cinematography and like movie making, you know.
I agree, 100%.
My favorite shot is, it's kind of a weird one, but I really really liked it. Like when I first saw it, I was immediately like, I really like this, like how they did this. So when the mother and child are in the house and the aliens are trying to take the child.
Yes.
And they zoom in on the grate on the bottom, and they get really, really defined on that like screw coming out.
Yes, that screw. Yes.
Oh my gosh, that was such a good shot. Especially for the, like, I thought I instantly transported into 1080p movie. I was like, what is this? What is this like high definition? How did they get this so good? It looks so good.
Did you get to see this in theater, or did you watch it at home?
I had to watch it at home. I couldn't get to see it in theater.
Okay, yeah. So the version that I saw in theaters was remastered for 4K.
Oh, okay.
And it was freaking beautiful. And they're actually, it's coming out again on Blu-ray and 4K in a couple weeks, which would be really cool to grab and add to my collection. My favorite shot in the film was also in that same sequence, but it was when the little child opens the door and you just have that bright orange light flooding into the room.
Yeah, and it's like his...
and then the mom comes and slams it right away.
It's like the silhouette and everything. It's very, very, very
That
good.
shot, though, I mean, this film does a magnificent job of using light and color.
Mm-hmm. It's, like you said, the movie doesn't have the best acting, but you still are invested into every scene. Well, maybe not every scene. I do think that the first half, or the first 20, 30 minutes of the movie is really, really slow, and you can kind of lose someone's attention with that. But once it kicks into the second act and the third act, you're just, I was on board with this movie. I was face into my computer screen watching this. But
what I see being a turnoff in this film, and it's very much a style choice that Spielberg made that's relevant more to those times in the late 70s. But there's several scenes throughout the movie where multiple characters are talking at the same time. They're talking over each other, and you can't really focus too well on what any particular character is saying.
So that's actually in one of the, I think it is the first scene, when they're in the command. No, it's not the first scene. The first scene is them in Mexico, but the scene after that where they're in the command tower.
Yeah.
And they're going like through all the like sectors and stuff, like, do you see this? Do you see this? I actually really, really liked that. It was so different for me. Like,
it's real.
It's very, very real. And I think that people can see that I more enjoy real. I mean, this movie's about aliens, so how real really is it? But I really enjoy that realistic element to movies. And there's a lot of things in this movie that obviously are really like fantasized and stuff like that, like aliens coming down and all this stuff happening. But you know, I like that, you know, they're not pausing for someone else to talk beside them. They're in a real situation. They need to find out all this information, and it kind of conveys that chaotic feel to the viewer. You know, when I'm trying to watch this movie, I understand more that it's more chaotic and more like they're more desperate for all these answers. And the multiple times that they do this kind of thing. And my favorite time is when they do it when he's on the phone and then the news is talking and you really can't even hear him on the phone. You're trying to like, you can hear the TV really, really loudly and like they're trying to explain everything, but you're trying to like listen to him on the phone and who is he talking to? And it turns out he's talking to his wife about her taking the kids and they're moving. They're leaving. They're gone.
You're talking about the scene when he kind of first makes the connection that the thing that he kept building was Devil's Tower when he saw it on the TV as well.
Yeah, because the TV is like explaining like their the Army's excuse, you know, like make it something that's like clear out 300 miles or whatever, and it's explaining that, but he's also talking on the phone and like losing his family at the same time, and you're kind of trying to, you're invested in both things, and it's kind of like chaotic to listen to it, but it conveys that chaotic feel as well as to everything going on screen.
I don't think there's a scene in this film that portrays the chaos of the film any better than the scene when Richard Dreyfuss's character appears to have just gone bonkers, and he's ripping plants out the ground, and he goes to the neighbor's backyard and he's pulling, fencing out of the ground and starts throwing it all into his kitchen.
A very uncomfortable scene.
Like, it's a very bonkers scene, but
Yeah.
I watched that and I was like, holy cow.
I wanted
just the way that he was affected, like they got into his head.
Yeah, I wanted to leave at that point. I was like, dude, you're crazy. Just get in the car. Let's go. Come on, you're crazy. But it's a very,
But
very
for real though,
uncomfortable scene
I'd be
to watch.
I'd be on the sidewalk or outside my house watching just like everybody else was in that neighborhood.
Yeah, exactly. But it, like you said, that conveys, what he's going through in his mind. And it is a good acting job on his part, but the scene in itself and everything else going on in it and the imagery and all that and all of it encompasses, it pushes forward the narrative really, really, really well.
Can we talk about my favorite aspect of this film?
Yeah, go ahead, man. I'm sorry.
No, you're fine. No, my favorite aspect though is how the music and the score of this film really becomes a character, especially in the final scene or in the final act when everyone is at the top of Devil's Tower and the ships are there and they're communicating through the different tones and pitches. And it's that moment when you first realize that the da 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 is like, it's iconic, but it comes from this movie, and it really, it's not just something that plays in the background of the movie. Like, it becomes a real part of the movie.
Exactly.
And they communicate through that score. And it blew my mind when I made that realization.
And you know what? There was a good solid 3 minutes where it's actually just music going back and forth, and a little bit that same kind of like music underlying, and then people talking back and forth and like talking over each other and stuff like that at the same time. And that scene was also was probably one of my favorites too. Like that, like I was another scene where I had my face like in my computer screen while I was watching. I was completely like enthralled by it.
It was such a beautiful scene.
And I was trying to like figure out, I was like, okay, because I didn't know where this was going, and I had a feeling of where it was going, but I didn't know for sure. And I was like, okay, when they do the low noises, is that bad? Are they gonna end up like wiping these people out? And that's not the movie it kind of was leading up to, but I still always had that like in the back of my mind,
Right, and then there was one thing in that scene that kind of pulled me out of it just a little bit. So when the spaceship, when that UFO first kind of opens up, and we first see life forms coming out of it.
Oh my gosh!
At first I'm like, okay,
nightmares.
what do these aliens look like? And then they appeared to be humans. So I was thinking, oh, these are aliens that took the form of humans, when in fact they were just actually humans that had been abducted.
Exactly. Yep.
And then you get that first little wave of aliens that does come off the ship. And now those costumes, they're not particularly great costumes. You could tell that they just got children to kind of dress up in like a Halloween kind of costume.
Yeah.
But
again,
it was still like,
they used the light to their advantage. There.
It's just an impressive scene.
Yeah. They like you said earlier, they used the light so well there. Because if you had seen that, just walking down the street, you would obviously be able to tell it's just some kid in a costume. And you still kind of can hear, but it doesn't take you out of the movie enough because how they use the light to mask and use silhouettes more than, being up close, And I think I was actually kind of confused because they showed one alien that seemed like he had like really, really long limbs and a giant, like he looked like he was giant. And then it cut. And then more of the little aliens came out, and I was like, what happened to that big, like, what was that big thing that came out? Like, I didn't understand that part.
I think that might have been like the alien that was in charge.
Maybe. That thing was
on the ship.
That thing was creepy.
I'm not sure, but it looked creepy and very real, and I'm not sure how they pulled that one off.
That was horrifying when I saw the long limbs. I was like, nope, I can't. This cannot turn into a horror movie. I'm really bad at this. All right, we need to move it along. Come on.
But you knew it wasn't a horror movie.
I know it wasn't.
It wasn't about to turn into Alien.
I was like, okay, let's get this. And another thing of nightmares was, puppets are used a lot back in these days for this kind of thing. But that puppet at the end that he does like the hand signal and stuff like that, that is probably gonna be in my nightmares for the next few days. Like just how it moved, it was just like, nope, I'm done. I'm out.
That image was stuck in my head for a while, but then I saw It twice this week, so I've got other images stuck in my head instead.
Man. You're a brave man, Kevin.
I know. No, the scene that I think really got me in the beginning of the film might be my favorite scene in the movie. Of course, the shot where the little kid opens and the orange light floods in is my favorite shot in the film. But my favorite scene in the film is when you're looking at that 3-year-old kid's bedroom and all of his toys start turning on.
Yes.
That was bonkers, but it was frightening at the same time.
Another great use of when that monkey starts coughing, I was like, oh my gosh.
I do not like those monkey toys with the symbols.
Everywhere. But,
and one of them is in Toy Story 3 also. That one was scary.
But that scene again, that entire scene, well, the monkey's creepy, but another time where they use light, and you notice like on a lot of his toys, they all had sirens and lights going off, sounds and lights, and that was a common theme in this movie, is just like the sounds and lights and the contrasting colors, the darkness and the light. So good. Makes everything pop out. So good.
Very much so. That's why this movie is more of a technical achievement and technical masterpiece more so than it is, a great emotional powerhouse of a film.
Yeah. Like you said, we're saying earlier, the acting is not great. Like, you can't go into this movie expecting there to be Oscar-worthy performances.
Although apparently there was.
Apparently there was, but
I don't know if that says more about this film or the other films that were out that year too.
Yeah.
I'm not familiar with 1977 films.
The performances were good though. Like,
yeah, they're not bad. They are definitely good performances.
I think Dreyfuss was a standout in this movie,
in my opinion.
I think Dreyfuss was the standout in this movie. I think he portrayed a crazy person really, really well.
I love what I think it was it Carrie Guffey? Yeah, Carrie Guffey was the one who played the little 3 or 4-year-old boy in the movie. And so when I saw it in theaters, there was a little like 5 to 10 minute featurette in front of the movie that had interviews with Steven Spielberg, J.J. Abrams, and Denis Villeneuve, who directed an Alien film that came out last year called Arrival, was nominated for Best Picture, and it drew a lot of inspiration from Close Encounters of the Third Kind. But in that featurette, the interview with Spielberg, he talks about how the child actors that are in this film, he just kind of let them be children.
And you can see that, too.
Yeah, like they had some scripted lines in it, but when they weren't giving off lines that were scripted, he just told them, just be a child. He didn't tell them, go over here, play with this toy, and then look this way. It was very much just, hey, you got to be on the set, be in the shot, but just be a child.
Go slam that doll into that crib like 300 times. Oh my god.
Yeah. Man. Yeah. You got that kid slamming that doll on that crib or that playpen, whatever he was in, and then Richard Dreyfuss's character is playing with mashed potatoes and pulling bushes out of the ground and throwing them in his kitchen. There's just a lot of crazy stuff that happens in this movie.
Yeah. Very, very very well executed on the director's part and on Richard Dreyfuss's part, and the child stuff. I didn't really like I think the wife did a okay job. I didn't like the female lead, honestly.
Yeah, that was the one that was nominated for supporting actress.
I know she was, and I don't see it.
Yeah,
I really
no,
don't.
I'm with you on that. She was fine.
She was fine, I guess. Yeah, but she wasn't, that fine. Anyways, Kevin, I think we've waxed poetic enough on this movie. What is your final thoughts on this? And your score, your grade?
Yeah, so I am giving it 4 out of 5. I think there's too the acting in this film is it takes away too much for me to give it a perfect score. But the acting is serviceable enough. It's the effects, the music, the light, the sound and color and everything else is absolutely perfect about this film, but the acting is just a little weak in my opinion. And that's what takes away from it, so I'm giving it a 4.
All right, I agree with you on a lot of things on this movie. I'm going to be a little more generous and give it a 4.5 out of 5. I really, really like this movie. And the acting wasn't enough for me to, deter away from this. Mainly for the second and third acts. If I was just grading the first act, it would probably be like a 3 out of 5. Maybe even lower. But once it starts picking up and, stuff starts happening, it gets really, really good on the technical side, and it pulls you in and grabs you. So I'm going to go 4.5 out of 5 on my weird arbitrary scale.
Yeah. Now, I mean, that first act, like you just said, you would give it a 3 out of 5. I think the first act I'd give it about a 4.5.
Really?
Just because, it is slow at times, but that first act is where you get those shots in that house, with the kid opening the door and the light flooding in and all the toys turning on.
I would say that's the second
and
act.
there's a lot of really, really well done exposition and setup in the first act.
Maybe not the first. I would still say that scene in the house is still the second act, unless you're talking about the first scene in the house where the kids the toys are going off.
Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, that is the first. That would still be the first act. So maybe I'm thinking the first 20 minutes of the movie or the first 15 minutes of the movie.
Possibly. Yeah. All the stuff with that first scene in Mexico and then the scene in the command center.
Yeah. So about that, and then after that, I'm good. I'm good to go. 4.5 out of 5. Anyways, Kevin. Yeah. So we put up another Twitter poll, and you can find us on Twitter at OldSkoolSK.
OldSkoolMovieSK.
OldSkoolMovieSK. Kevin, I might just have you handle all the naming of stuff.
You got this. You're doing fine.
But Kevin,
I'm here to support you.
We did a Twitter poll, and we put up 4 movies. Put up Citizen Kane, Rocky, Godfather 2, which is my biased option for it. And Kevin was like, please let's not watch Godfather 2 because it's over 3 hours long.
Yeah, and then the fourth option on the poll was All the President's Men.
Yeah. What ended up winning the Twitter poll, Kevin?
The winner of the Twitter poll was Citizen Kane.
I am really excited about this. I had Godfather 2 as my number 1 option, what I wanted really, really to win. And it came in second, I'm pretty sure. Tied with Rocky.
Yeah.
But Citizen Kane was my number 2 choice.
My bias in here is what had Citizen Kane end up winning because I did go over to my personal Twitter account and vote for Citizen Kane.
Cheater! That's okay. Citizen Kane's a great movie.
Yeah. Citizen Kane is just, for a long, long time, was considered the best film ever. And it's still way up there on those lists.
That people still think that, right?
Yeah, it's pretty much between Citizen Kane and Godfather 1 and Godfather 2.
So, and this is an old movie.
1941.
Is this the oldest movie we've seen?
This will be the oldest we've seen now. Casablanca was the oldest. It was 1942.
Okay. So 1941. What any awards going to this movie that we should know about?
It was nominated for Outstanding Motion Picture, Best Director, Best Actor, Best Art Direction for a Black and White Film, Best Cinematography for a Black and White Film, Best Film Editing, Best Music Score of a Dramatic Picture, and Best Sound Recording. And then it won the award for Best Original Screenplay.
Okay.
That was the only Academy Award that it won.
Which is kind of odd since it's considered by a lot of people still to this day, almost 80 years after the fact, to be the best movie of all time, that it only won one award. I'm really interested to see this movie. I don't know what it's about. Again, a really common theme about this podcast is Shawn doesn't know anything and doesn't know what he's talking about. But I'm very, very excited.
I mean, I don't know what it's really about either. To see here, it says it's a mystery drama.
A mystery drama. I guess you could say that about Casablanca too, kind of. Maybe a thriller.
Yeah. Well, let's see. It says this is a quasi-biographical film that examines the life and legacy of Charles Foster Kane, played by Orson Welles, a character based in part upon William Randolph Hearst, who was one of the big newspaper tycoons.
All right, Citizen Kane. I'm excited. After Citizen Kane, we'll be taking a 2-week break. Kevin is going to Schmancy Pantsy Film Festival in Texas.
Okay, not a fancy schmancy one. It's not like Sundance or Toronto. I'm going to
a film
Fantastic
festival. That's pretty
Fest
cool.
for a week and a half, and it's going to be a bunch of horror, action, sci-fi, fantasy. There's a whole bunch of really, really weird films that no theaters would ever pick up.
Excellent. We might do a little bit. I haven't really talked with Kevin about it. I think we did a long time ago, but we might do a little bit of Kevin's, review on this after you go and see these movies and what you think about some of them, if you can talk about them. I don't know how.
I think I'll be able to talk about most of them. A lot of them have been released either internationally or they're not going to get a wide release. Some of them will get a wide release, and I won't be able to talk about them.
All right. Well,
but for the most part, I should be able to talk about a lot of these.
So after next episode, we'll be taking a 2-week break because Kevin's going to do that, and then when he gets back, I'll be on a cruise, so we'll be out of town and not be able to record. But we'll have a little snippet. We'll try to get a little snippet of Kevin's thoughts on some of his top movies of the festival or something like that.
Definitely.
Kevin, where can they find you?
You can find me on Twitter at KevWatchedAFilm, and on also on Stardust at KevWatchedAFilm, and on Letterboxd at KevWatchesFilms.
And you can find me at letterboxd.com/PatPat, and you can follow the show at twitter.com/OldSkoolMovieSK.
Bingo.
Got it, Kevin. All right.
So, go watch movies.
Go watch movies.